Hi there, this is Greg Day, Security CTO for Symantec, and with me today I have Simon from Dennis Labs. Simon, welcome.
Thank you very much.
So, Simon, there are 1,000,001 different tests out there for security vendors, and it seems like every vendor can always get a test out that says, look, we're the best. I guess the first question is, what's different about your tests?
What I would say makes ours stand out from the others. They are all valid tests, but you have to be careful what conclusions you draw. And I would say ours are possibly the most realistic kind of test. And the reason for that is that we expose the products to real threats as they happen in real time, in real life. So there's no simulation, all parts of the products are tested.
Rather than kind of taking that, here's the threats we all know about and we really should be detecting, you're taking literally what's out there that day and taking those live real threats and seeing how products do against those, rather than kind of the pre-canned, we know about them, we should all absolutely detect them.
Sure, I mean, we could encounter loads of fake AV stuff that you guys should know about all the time. We might have some zero-day stuff happening. We just simply don't know from day to day what threats the bad guys are going to throw at the customers, and it's the customers who are going to encounter these threats every day.
Yeah, brilliant. I guess the next question for me is, Symantec was the only vendor to get this AAA rating, this top score. Just how bad were the other vendors that, they just couldn't, pass or win, in this test?
Well, look, our test, you get different scores for achieving different things. Okay, so in most tests, you either detect the threat or you don't. You get 1 point for detecting it and you lose a point, or you don't get any points if you don't. We take a different approach. So we give you extra points if you completely block the threat. If you don't allow the threat to start interacting with the system, we call that a defense, and you get a number of points for that. If you're compromised, we don't think that 0 points is enough. We should hammer you for that, so you lose points, actually. And that's why in some reports we've done, some vendors have actually got negative marks overall. And then there's another option as well, which is you may find that SEP in your case didn't block the malicious website. Some malware came down, started to interact with the system, but behavioural or some other technology said, right, something bad's happening, stop, kick the threat off. And we would call that neutralisation. So it's not quite as tight as blocking it completely, which is the best option, because no one really knows for the neutralisation whether it's actually stolen some information already or caused some damage. But at the end of the day, the system wasn't compromised, so you get a lower number of points. So with that in mind, SEP actually didn't really have many neutralizations, maybe 1 or 2. It blocked everything more or less straight away, so you got the most points. Whereas in that test, your closest competitor was Kaspersky. Kaspersky neutralized quite a lot, and that's why they got fewer points than you. And you're the only ones that got the AAA rating, simply because you didn't allow the malware onto the system in almost every single case.
Brilliant. So if I understand it, whereas most tests kind of go, can you identify this threat or not, you took a far more pragmatic view that said, how much business impact would this threat have against you? Did it actually get onto the system? And if it's onto the system, then we start to have concerns as to, could they exfiltrate information or do other things?
Exactly, and I've seen products detect the threat, say they've quarantined it or deleted it, and you can clearly see other malicious stuff happening in the background. So you can never trust the product's own alerts. You have to take, we take a very forensic approach, so we look at the system deeply after the exposure to the threat. And so whether the product says it's blocked it or not, we don't trust that. We look very closely to see what impact it's had on the system.
Brilliant. I think that's a real key difference for businesses, because quite frankly, they don't care about what it's called so much as whether it's had business impact to them.
That's right. And the other thing is, of course, that a lot of tests will test a single file. They'll scan a file, or they may even, because they tried to up their game a few years ago, start downloading files. And that's really useful because you and other vendors have web reputation systems that will allow you to block those URLs. But of course, life isn't that easy, and the bad guys they'll compromise legitimate websites and then push their malware through there. And so we also detect things, or we also use things like exploit code in the real world. So this is what's helpful for you guys, is because you block a lot of that stuff straight away. Even if you don't know about the URL being malicious, even if your web reputation system didn't know that was a bad site, SEP and some other products will detect the exploits and say, look, we're not having that, stop it now, and they kind of locks the system down.